Next we have Adeline Kane Chandeko. Did I get close, Adeline? We practiced all week.
A reading from Luke chapter 1, verse 45. Blessed is she who has believed that the Lord would fulfill his promises to her.
I believe she's going to be First Lady one day. Listen, thank you so much. I won't be long today with the eulogy today. I know it's been a long week, but it's been a great week. It's been a week that we celebrated the life of one of the greatest women in the world, Sybil. There's no place on this earth that you can find anyone that has anything bad to say about Rosalynn Carter. Not one word, not a news article, not even one person on the left or anybody on the right. I believe, Chip, the reason why is because she did not worship the donkey or the elephant, she worshiped the lamb. And so today I want to tell you a little bit about her, the way I see it in my eyes as her pastor. I like to say, Danny, that she loved on me and my family just like a son. I like to say, Chip, when she hugged on my daughter and I watched them play with orchids in the room there, it just melted me as a father. I searched all over trying to figure out what can I write and say about this great woman. And so, men, I have nothing to say to you today. I just want you to listen. I want to talk to the women in the room today. And the title of my eulogy is First Lady. Because that's who she was. To the caregivers, if you talk to any of the caregivers and pull them to the side and ask them to tell you about Miss Carter, they'll say she's an angel. They'll whisper to you, she is awesome. You've asked any of the sons or daughters. Now, yes, I call them sons or daughters because they fell in love with her. You ask any of them that protected her, they'll say, Dancer, she is incredible. If I had to bring up Alejandro up here today, and he'll say, let me tell you, I love that woman. I love her with all my heart. She's like a mother. I never forget, he was telling me how he was inside the surgery room, in the room guarding her as the doctors was working on her. Why? Because she was Dancer. And he had to take care of her. He had to make sure that she was safe. But more than that, he loved her like a mother. We are here today not to mourn the First Lady. We're here to celebrate her life, to remember her, and to comfort one another as families and friends who fondly remember the ones whose life touched ours in so many precious moments. We're here to continue the mantle. If I had to go on and describe her, I would say she was all about a family. I believe, Chaplain, that if you did anything to the family, she might have beat you up. Because it was all about the family, Josh. We had a revival here at the church one day, a revival. And she lost her daughter-in-love, Annette. And she said, go get the pastor in the middle of a revival. You know why? Because she wanted to make sure that her grandson and her son was okay. She wanted them to be comforted. She wanted them to be loved on. She wanted them to be prayed on. She wanted to make sure that the family was okay. Her family, her neighbors, her friends all knew her to be someone who did not think of herself, but rather others and others' needs. Her care and concern for those around her defined her and left the most remarkable impression upon our hearts and memories as we remember her today. The challenge that each and every one of you are going to have is, how are you going to see the next day of her legacy? Will the women stand up and be first ladies? Will the women around our nation have a little bit of Rosalynn in them? Were they willing to fight for those who are hurting, broken, and crushed in spirit? Are we willing to look at a baby from Sudan and say, that's my baby too? Are you willing to see another baby from Cambodia and say, that's my baby too? Are you willing to walk down the street to the Boys and Girls Club and say, those are my children too? That's who she was. If you ask the church members about her on cold days like it was today, on the first of the month or the last of the month, she'll be sitting out there filling out paperwork so she can feed those who need food to make it through the month. And not one time did she complain. A loving wife, a caring mother, a doting grandmother, and a devoted friends. She had schedules. She kept notes, post notes. She did all of that stuff. But one of the greatest things I saw her share with me was that every time I came to see her, she would grab a pen and she would say, who can I pray for? She asked the question, where have you been? What have you done? Who have you helped? And finally she would say, how can I help you help them? And I would say, this person needs prayer and that person needs prayer. And the next thing out of her mouth, she says, get me their phone numbers so that Jimmy and I can call them. Many of you sitting here today during tough times in your life, you've had a phone call from her or a note from her saying, I'm praying for you. When Deacon Mashuk passed away, she reached out because she loved him. This man, not from this country, a Muslim who became a Christian. She loved him and his family. That's who she was. Tony, what are you talking about? Well, if I had to describe her and build a business case of who she was, I would have to take you to the only thing as always in print and read all around the world. Several different translations, several different languages. And it's called The Virtuous Woman. My Facebook might say The Virtuous Woman from now on, with a picture of her. Because that's who she was. Proverbs 31:10 through 31 says, who can find a virtuous wife? Jimmy Carter. For her worth is far above rubies. The heart of a husband safely trusts her. She will have no lack or gain. She does him good and not evil. In all the days of her life, she seeks wool and flax and will willingly work with her hands. How many of you seen Miss Rosalynn work with her hands? It goes on to say, she is like the merchant ships. She brings up food from afar. I heard Chip talk about her making sandwiches on a plane. And all on the bus, we're laughing about the kids talking about grandma making sandwiches on the plane and handing them out. She was that merchant. And she girds herself with strength. And I want to tell you, during our weakest times, I've seen her love on everybody around her and give them strength. The aides, her children, this church. The pandemic took something away from her. It took her church away from her. She wasn't able to come like she used to. And she always asks, how's Miss Carol? How's Miss Mildred doing? How's Miss Sybil doing? When she realized someone was hurting, she didn't ask for prayers for herself, she asked for prayers for other people. Annette Wise, Phil Wise. I can go on down the list of her naming people, asking for prayer for them. Polly, she loved you. She loved you. Ruth, she loved you. Maranatha, she loved you. She loved this church. She loved why it was created, and she loved what it stood for. See, there was no anger in her heart or her soul or her walk. When you met her one day, she was that way the next day. She was real as they get. She was the virtuous woman. And her lamp does not go out, and she stretches out her hand to the distaff, to those who are broken, those who are hurting, and her hand holds the spindle, and she extends her hands to the poor. That is who she is. Wouldn't it be awesome if we had a nation full of first ladies like that? Wouldn't it be awesome if we had a world full of first ladies like that? She was the virtuous woman. Every man in this room longs for a virtuous woman in his life, whether it's Nana, grandmama, or even his wife or his daughter. Buzz, everybody longs for this virtuous woman. Some of you in here know what it's like to lose a virtuous woman. If you lost your mother, or lost your grandmother, or lost a wife. You've lost that woman who was the foundation, the matriarch of your life. And all of a sudden, your heart starts to think about, what am I going to do? And your mind starts racing and tears starts falling. But I'm here to tell you today, you should think about Miss Rosalynn. And don't complain. Because she was competitive. Oftentimes on a compound, President Carter is in his fast wheelchair. And Secret Service is pushing him at a nice little pace. Miss Rosalynn is in her walker. Come on, Tony, we're going to beat him today. Come on, we're going to beat him today. She never stopped competing. She didn't retire on the Lord. She didn't quit on God. Tony, do you have proof? Yes. She did more in her latter days than she did when she was in the White House. When half the country said we no longer wanted you, she said, I am still going to go to work. Why? Because faith without works is dead, been alone. And I'm a virtuous woman. Because I love my Lord. And I'm going to give him all I got. And all the way to the age of 96, she gave him all she had. She never quit, never complained. In the cold, she walked. I pull up on the compound. I asked the agents, how's she? Well, she was just out walking. Because she never gave up. Henry, she reach out her hand to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household is clothed with scarlet. She makes tapestry for herself. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. You heard Josh say, First Lady got President Carter elected to Senate and then to the White House, and Governor made him known in the gates, known all around the world. The Bible says when a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. She